Hi guys, this is a remake of a previous video I made. Thanks to Victor Mac for his criticism, I decided that I very poorly worded my arguments in the old video, and this should be much better. The video was about how all good ideas are either utopian or a double-edged sword. So let me start all over, and I hope this time it'll make more sense. First of all, look at what we have. The system we live in today is called the status quo. So we start by asking, is our status quo good enough? If you say yes, okay, fine, end of story. Status quo is good enough, so we don't need a better proposal or a good idea to propose an alternative. If somebody says, no, the status quo is not good enough, I can think of a better one, then you can ask this person, okay, what system do you propose that's a good idea? And why is it better? He'll probably tell you something to the effect of, well, my system has more healthy people, more wealthy people, more equality, more justice, more comfort, things to that effect. And when you hear these key words, you can pretty much, I think, safely lump all these into the umbrella of are, in effect, more happy people. So I think at this point I would say the defining characteristics of a good idea or a good alternative proposal to the status quo we live in is something that has more happy people. Are you following me? Okay, here we go. If you have a good idea that has more happy people than the status quo, then I want to know how many happy people are we talking about? Are we talking about 10% more? Or are we talking about everybody? If this good idea is going to make everybody happy, then this would essentially be utopian. If it doesn't make every single person or every single person that matters, not counting the retards and babies and uh, handicap, if it makes if it counts all the practical people happier, I would consider that basically a utopia. So now you have, as far as good ideas go, two options: utopian and non-utopian. If it's utopian, it would essentially make everybody happier than today. If it's non-utopian, it would mean it wouldn't make every single person happy, which could be 99% down to just one person more than today's status quo. Okay, now are you following me? So a good idea is either utopian or non-utopian. It's either perfect or it's not perfect. I think for the sake of this argument, perfect and utopian can be synonymous, and imperfect can be synonymous with non-utopian, characterizing a system that doesn't make everybody happy. The point I want to make here is that so far, all the proposals I've heard, whether you're talking about communism, anarcho-capitalism, anarchism, libertarianism, fascism, um, direct democracy, zeitgeist movements, resource-based economy, all of these alternative systems are either utopian or double-edged sword. This is the point here. I believe unless these proposals are utopian, in which case it'll make every single person happy, it tends to make some people happy at the expense of others. In other words, not only does it not make everybody happy, which is by definition, if it's non-utopian, not everybody will be happy. But not only are not everybody happy, but those that are not happy are much less happy than they were under the status quo. Do you see what I'm saying? So basically, what I want to ask is, if there is a good idea, could it be neither utopian nor a double-edged sword? In other words, can you have a good idea that increases the amount of happy people compared to today, but not to the point of utopia, because utopians are basically by definition unrealistic and unachievable. Let's say can you have a good idea that has more happy people than today, but the happiness does not come at the expense of others? So far, all the examples I've heard have been the case, that it's a double-edged sword if it's not utopian. So I want to know, could something be a good idea, non-utopian, but not a double-edged sword? The real question I want to ask here is that, is happiness a zero-sum game? And I think yes. I think happiness, just like energy, just like money, is essentially, for most practical purposes, a limited resource, and it's zero sum. That means for people today to be more happy, some people would have to lose their own happiness for it. Just like for some people to be richer than they are today, some people have to lose money. For people to have more resources or electricity, some people would essentially have to lose some of it, because these are limited in the total sum. That's why we call it a zero-sum game. So can you guys give me some ideas? Is it possible to propose a system that is better than the status quo? By better, I mean more happy people, without being utopian, but also without taking away the happiness of people that are happy today. In other words, can you increase the happiness of people today without taking it away from other people? If this makes sense to you, thanks for listening.